The Agenda with Steve Paikin is made possible through generous philanthropic contributions from viewers like you. Thank you for supporting TVO's journalism.
Tonight on The Agenda, John Michael McGrath and I with our weekly onpoli podcast.
A conservative win in not just a Toronto riding, but a Liberal stalwart riding in the city of Toronto. It's now the only seat citywide the Liberals don't hold, but just a real thunderbolt of a result.
Then,
I wanted to take a look at moments in my life where I connected with a trope that is common in scary movies or scary literature.
partner, our last show of the season.
Yes, I know, we made it.
Give me some sugar there. Okay. We know, as you know, people who watch this program will also know, there are essentially three orders of business on this podcast. Number one, we try to cover the main and important events of the week at Queen's Park.
Yes.
Number two, we are constitutionally obligated to mention Bill Davis,
yes,
former Premier of Ontario. And three, my hometown of Hamilton. Now, am I missing anything?
I believe I'm usually required to mention Ontario planning law, but those are the big ones.
Yeah, I think we've got it all covered. So now let's get the Hamilton reference out of the way, shall we? We'll do that right off the top here. I am wearing this shirt today, the Arkells, because I went to see them perform at the Budweiser stage at Ontario Place last week, I guess a week ago today. I'd never seen them perform live before, heard their music, but never seen them perform live. They were absolutely phenomenal. Saw them at Ontario Place. Did I mention that?
I don't know.
Opened by Bill Davis in May of 1971.
Okay.
There's a second one.
Checking two boxes.
Checking two boxes. There we go. The Arkells are from Hamilton. Max Kerman is the lead singer. He is the hardest working man in show business. Just an unbelievable act. Max and I bumped into each other at a Blue Jay game a couple of weeks ago. Sheldon, you want to bring that picture up? There we are. I snapped a little selfie of the two of us together, which was delightful. People, if you get a chance to see the Arkells perform, don't walk, run to see them perform. They are phenomenal. 15 Juno nominations, I think. Nominated 6 times for Band of the Year. Alternative rock and roll. They just blow the roof off the place, and I can't say enough about them.
You know, I'm not much of a live music person, but I will make an effort next time I see them in my neck of the woods.
Good. Okay, I'm glad. We're going to convert people one at a time if we have to. Next thing, you remember we were here a week ago, and I said to you that I was going to have lunch the following day with 95-year-old, 4-time Ontario Liberal leader Robert Nixon.
Yes, I do recall.
You remember? And I said, what did I say I would do? I said I would report back. Yes. So I want to do that right now. Again, Sheldon, picture if you would please. There we are. That's me on the right, incidentally. And that is Mr. Nixon on the left. Our little group of onpoli nerds got together for lunch. So Mr. Nixon, Greg Sorbera, another former Liberal Ontario Treasurer, Dave Levac, the longest-serving Speaker in the history of the Ontario Legislature, Mark Littell, who's a former Brantford City Councillor, Howard Brown, who's a longtime Liberal stalwart, 2 of Mr. Nixon's grandsons, Bob and Alex Stewart. And I'm telling you, he's going to turn 96 in 3 weeks. And he is absolutely brilliant. Mind as sharp as a tack, you know, quite healthy considering he's 95, almost 96 years old. We love, of course, talking about the stories of yesteryear, and he's also very plugged in about the stories of today. And in fact, if you can imagine this, he does a daily blog at almost 96 years old. And in one of his blog posts a couple of months ago, he mentioned that he thought Justin Trudeau should step down as Prime Minister,
right,
which is a tough thing for a fellow Liberal to say. But given the results in the by-election in Toronto-St. Paul's of just a few days ago, I suspect he's not going to be the only one saying it now.
Well, and we do have a whole mailbag to get to, but I think we can spare at least a minute to talk about the result in Toronto-St. Paul, a conservative win in not just a Toronto riding, but a Liberal stalwart riding in the city of Toronto. It's now the only seat citywide the Liberals don't hold, but just a real thunderbolt of a result in federal politics. But you can already see it reverberating in provincial politics as well. I mean, Bonnie Crombie was interviewed about the relationship with Justin Trudeau, and she, in answer to one question, actually said, well, you know, Doug Ford is actually a closer relationship to Justin Trudeau than she, as the Liberal leader, is.
That's a fact, actually.
Distance between herself and Justin Trudeau. A very, very interesting moment right now.
You know, there are Liberals saying, if the Liberals can't hold St. Paul's, which is one of the safest liberal seats. It's been liberal since 1993.
Yep.
On the new boundaries. They changed the boundary. I remember the Conservatives won it a couple of times in the 1980s when Brian Mulroney was Prime Minister, but it were very different boundaries then. It is overwhelmingly tenant-focused now. It has a disproportionate sized Jewish community there, so you know that much of that community is unhappy with how Justin Trudeau has responded to the war in the Middle East. And, this is a lightning bolt for Liberals all over the country, be sure.
And as you say, if they can lose in St. Paul, then there's no safe ridings.
True enough. All right, shall we get on with the show?
Let us get to the mailbag.
Let's do it. We are going to change up the format a little bit this week for our final program of the season. We're going to spend the entire show answering your letters and emails. You've been writing us at onpolitics@tvo.org. So, JMM, get us started.
Okay, this is an email from Daniel Couture, who writes, Dear On Poly, lately we've seen the TV ads where the Premier says, call me, how can I help? So my question, is a member of the public actually allowed to call the Premier or a Cabinet Minister directly, or do they have to be a registered lobbyist? It's not like calling your MPP's constituency office. To give you an example, I'm a member of the Ontario Society of Professional Engineers and the Canadian Automobile Association, and they are both lobby groups. So if I pick up the phone and I call a cabinet minister like Todd McCarthy, am I breaking the law? Does it make me a lobbyist for OSPE or CAA?
Daniel Couture. Okay. Is there a difference between being Joe Citizen and calling your MPP versus calling on behalf of an organization?
So in the law, there absolutely is. What we normally just refer to as lobbyists in the law are referred to as consultant lobbyists. And when they are acting on behalf of clients, there is a registry they are supposed to file documenting which MPPs, ministers, deputy ministers, etc., that they are speaking with and why. And if you've ever read the lobbyist registry, it's quite detailed, like who they list and what the topics are. Of course, in many cases, they just list every minister and every topic under the sun, and it's not like super illuminating, but we move on. That law, however, has a specific section that says that basically constituents calling an MPP about any sort of personal or local matter does not count as lobbying. Doug Ford is an MPP. So with very few exceptions, I think, if you were to answer the call in his email, or in his commercial rather, and call him up and say, Doug, let me give you a piece of my mind, you are probably not going to break the law. Maybe if you're a CEO of a major company or something. Now, I mean, Daniel mentioned he's a member of the OSPE, and engineers are a provincially regulated profession. So if he were to call up his MPP and start talking about the legal requirements for engineers and his ideas for how those should be changed, and actually sometimes that is a political issue, that would start to get into riskier territory. I would probably recommend against it. There is absolutely a difference between just calling up your MPP or even the Premier or a cabinet minister versus what the law sees as actual lobbying.
So essentially it's I'm calling as a guy versus I'm calling on behalf of an association.
Yes, and sometimes people have gotten into trouble by not keeping a bright line between those two ideas.
Understood. Now, Daniel actually had a second part to his email, so I'm going to go on and read that part now. He writes, you recorded your On Poly show too early to have coverage of the announcement of the sudden closing of the Ontario Science Centre. That's quite right. I am appalled, Daniel writes. I work at a forensic engineering company with a structural department. I'm pretty sure that if we read through that hired report to the government about the structural damage to the roof of the Ontario Science Centre, we would be able to figure out how it could be repaired safely and for how much money. Neglecting timely repairs may be the cause, but if engineers can rebuild an underground parking garage without the building above falling on them, the Ontario Science Centre can be repaired. Can I say that I'm rather disappointed that they would close the Science Centre in the cowardly way that they did? My political brain tells me this scandal will be bigger than the Ontario Place mess with Terme. That's the luxury spa, of course. To you, your family, and JMM, have a good summer, Daniel Couture. Okay, a good opportunity to give us the latest on what's happening with the Science Centre story.
So, yes, Daniel's quite correct. This broke after we recorded last week's episode. The government suddenly announced the closure of the Science Centre.
5 o'clock on a Friday, eh?
Yes.
5 o'clock on a Friday, yeah.
Which, of course, governments are never trying to hide anything when they do that. Never.
No.
Now, there is, in fact, a substantial engineering issue. The engineering report that has been made public says that the issue is specifically a type of concrete roof panel that was widely used in the 60s and 70s, called reinforced autoclaved aerated concrete, or RAC panels. There have been some issues in the UK about RAC panel roofs collapsing, and so we knew that they were reused at the Science Centre. They wanted to inspect the panels, and they have found that some, though a relatively small number, are at a high risk of collapsing in the next winter snow load. Now, to get to Daniel's point, the engineering report says that there is a risk here. It does not say that the Science Centre had to be shut immediately. That is a determination that the government has made. The engineering report suggests that a relatively small number of these panels need to be replaced urgently. Some other people have looked at this report and said that you could probably even do it while maintaining operations at the Science Centre. That is, of course, a matter of opinion, and we'll just say a disputed opinion between the government and its critics. The provincial government knew about these roof panels at least as early as January 2024. It has been revealed that actually the operators of the Science Centre had applied for a building permit to do roof repairs earlier this year. That did not seem to go anywhere. And the Minister of Infrastructure, Kinga Surma, has said this week that she hoped that the building could be kept open until 2028, when, of course, the plan is to move the Science Centre to Ontario Place. Obviously, that hasn't happened. The Science Centre is closed. As we record this, the latest news is that the government is looking for some temporary location that they can move at least some of the exhibits to in between now and the opening of the new space at Ontario Place.
The Science Centre has gotten more love this past week than in the previous 10 years combined. All the opposition leaders have gone down there to do events and try to bring attention to the situation. So what's going to happen next on this?
Well, the Toronto City Council this week is debating a motion to ask city staff to explore the options of having the city simply take over the Science Centre. That is a big one. City Councillor Josh Matlow is the sponsor, or one of the sponsors of that motion. Former Chief City Planner Jennifer Keesmaat has suggested that the province should simply sell the structures of the Science Centre to the city for $1. The city already owns the land. It's just the province owns the structures itself. The firm Moriyama Teshima Architects that was Raymond Moriyama's architecture firm that helped design or that did design the Science Centre has offered their advice on how to fix the roof for free. There have been other offers by various wealthy individuals to help fund the repair of the roof if they can keep the programming open. So a lot of civil awareness of this right now. Frankly, and I knew obviously that this is a beloved building and that lots of people loved the Science Centre. I have to say, a little bit surprised at just how much public outcry there has been.
A little historical aside here. We got the Science Centre in Ontario, in, I guess it's the Don Mills area of Toronto in the first place, because former Ontario Premier John Robarts in the 1960s decided that young kids ought to like science. And he wanted a centennial year project built so that kids would have a fun place to come and learn about science. So that's why it's there in the first place. Been there for a very long time. We should also mention that we got a lot of mail about the Ontario Science Centre from a lot of other people. So shout outs, I know we can't read them all obviously, but shout outs to Debbie Stinson, Beth Mousseau, Bill Mills, Julio Villar, and Alexander DeMello, who also sent in questions. So thanks to them. And with that, on to the next one. JMM, it's yours.
Okay, here is an email from Kevin Shaw in Petrolia, Ontario, who writes, Hi, Steve and JMM. After the recent provincial cabinet shuffle, I looked at the updated list of cabinet ministers and parliamentary assistants and noticed something that I think is a bit off. MPP Bob Bailey, is listed as the parliamentary assistant to the Minister of Legislative Affairs. This ministry no longer exists. Upon further inspection, I can see that the title of every other parliamentary assistant is an exact name match to a corresponding cabinet minister. Is this a normal occurrence? I can't think of anyone better than the two of you to explain this oddity. Thank you for your time. Love the show. Kevin Shaw, Petrolia, Ontario. So our producer, Matthew Amara, reached out to Bob Bailey's office and they replied saying, Until we hear otherwise, MPP Bailey still has the same role as parliamentary assistant. He is also still a member on the Standing Committee on Procedure and House Affairs. I also reached out to the Premier's office and inquired, is Mr. Bailey still a parliamentary assistant? I did not receive a response from the Premier's office as we record this. It is worth noting that, like, this isn't just a title, a pedantic point here. Parliamentary assistants get a modest pay increase relative to other MPPs. I think it's about 15%. So at the moment, unless somebody can clarify this, it appears that Bob Bailey is receiving a raise of public taxpayer dollars for being a parliamentary assistant to a ministry that does not exist.
This is too much out of Yes Minister on the BBC.
Yes.
I almost hesitate to fact check this because the ridiculousness of it is too good to check on whether it's actually true.
Well, I mean, we will update this on social media, I'm sure, if we get a clarification from the Premier's office or anyone else. But yes, very, very good catch from our viewer. And
to be continued.
One. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, moving along. Here is an email from listener Bill Cowan, who writes, "Hi guys, love your Friday night show, never miss it. I wonder if there is any precedent for a party in power's cabinet to revolt against the Premier. Mr. Ford's tactics," the letter writer says, "regarding dreaming up new legislation to change the rules is quite disturbing. I am quite sure that if the late Bill Davis," oh my gosh, there's a third reference, "was in his cabinet, he would object to these bully tactics. I think back to his removing the oversight of the conservation authorities." He's talking about Doug Ford here. "If he changes the rules regarding the set dates for elections to prevent the other parties from fundraising enough to give him a battle, that is despicable and totally unnecessary. Could the sensible members of his caucus put a stop to this? Love the way you two recall political history. Keep this up." Well, okay, Bill, thank you very much for that. I think, can I go first on this one?
Go.
I think the best example of this I recall was at the federal level. The Globe and Mail's John Ibbotson just wrote a book called The Duel, which was all about the relationship between Lester Pearson and John Diefenbaker. And for this answer to this question, we got to look at Dief. Because Dief, during his time, I guess we're talking early 1960s here, had a full-scale mutiny happen in his cabinet. And John's got the blow-by-blow of this in his book. The question was, should we allow the Americans to have nuclear-tipped missiles stationed in Canada over which they would have control? And apparently the government of Canada at one point said, yes, you can do that. And then there was a huge debate in Diefenbaker's cabinet over it, and Dief wanted to take back the commitment that Canada had made on that. And cabinet was literally having a vote. I think he was actually out of the room at the moment when the vote happened. They were going to have a vote on whether to expel him as prime minister, to mutiny and expel him as prime minister. Somehow he managed to survive that vote, just barely though, but of course it all contributed to bring his government down after just, what did he get elected, 57 for the first time, and he was out by 63, and at that time he had the biggest majority government in Canadian history. So it was complicated, but that's the best example I can think of.
Before I get to a few other examples that I can think of, should we make a fourth Bill Davis reference?
Go for it.
Well, because the Beaumark missile controversy was also wrapped up in the cancellation of the Avro Arrow.
Yes.
And Mr. Davis, if I recall somebody's book about this matter, Mr. Davis struggled to win his first election because the Avro Arrow plant was in his riding.
Correct. He won that first election in 1959 by about 1,200 votes. He should have won by 15,000, but you're quite right. All the people who built that plane lived in his constituency, and they were not happy with Tories because Mr. Diefenbaker canceled the Avro Arrow. Yeah, quite right.
So that's now 4 Davis references. We're really...
We've done our job.
Okay. So, but to get back to the question here, I mean, cabinet mutinies. I mean, one of the clearest examples I can think of provincially was, people may remember a few years back, then Toronto Mayor John Tory wanted to toll the Don Valley Parkway and the Gardiner Expressway, these highways into Toronto. And initially, Kathleen Wynne had said she supported the idea and was willing to make the necessary changes to have it go forward. And then there was a revolt in the Liberal caucus, and in at least some cases, the Liberal cabinet ministers did not want this to go forward, right? 905 members, GTA members of Kathleen Wynne's own party spoke privately against this whole idea, and she eventually dropped it. She found a different idea that saw different types of money go towards Toronto, but it was not about tolling the garden or the DVP anymore. So these revolts do still happen. Similarly, I mean, we can even talk about Doug Ford, right? We know that he has faced revolts from within his caucus and within his cabinet on matters like the public health measures during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Restrictions, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, some of the measures that Bill has mentioned, I don't imagine we will see a revolt from the Tory caucus about that stuff. But I mean, that's the fun thing about politics. It does have the potential to prove someone like me wrong.
Now that you mention it, I can recall one other instance, and I'm not sure it would rise to the level of a mutiny where they were about to throw the Premier out. But during Dalton McGuinty's time as the Premier of Ontario, he tasked a former Attorney General named Marion Boyd to study the issue of whether or not the Muslim community should be allowed to use Sharia law under some circumstances. And Marion Boyd came back with a task force report that said, yes, there are circumstances under which we recommend that Sharia law be available to be used in the Muslim community. Many of the women in the caucus of Dalton McGuinty's Liberal Party, Liberal government, mutinied. Yep. They absolutely rose up and they said, we are not going to allow this. This may not be good for women. And as a result, McGuinty shelved the report and the issue disappeared. And he didn't even have a press conference to announce that. I think he let somebody scrum him on the way out of Queen's Park one day. Nothing formal, just said, nope, we're not going to do it. That's it. Into his car he got and away he went.
Yeah, and I mean, they would later go further, as I recall, in that there had been a longstanding practice where in family law cases, some Jewish families were allowed to rely on Jewish religious law.
Yes.
And quietly, the government said, we're going to just move away from all of this entirely. So yeah, that was actually a pretty consequential revolt in the end.
Indeed. And finally, here is an email from a listener named Nadia Thomas from Toronto who writes, hello, JMM will recall that a longtime viewer phoned the TVO studio to inquire about the origin of the wonderfully nerdy T-shirt that he wore on the May 17th show.
I'm just going to interrupt you to say it was this shirt.
Oh, it was the same one?
Yes, I made sure to wear this shirt again because of this letter, this wonderful letter.
Cool. And it's all
Godzilla and Rodan and various other characters.
Okay. Well, she goes on to say, JMM very kindly took the time to relay back through TVO staff the details about the online store where his wife had bought the shirt. What JMM may be interested to know now is that the caller was my 89-year-old mother, Marjorie Thomas, who was perhaps his biggest superfan. She also, of course, loves you too, Steve. Okay, thank you. My mother has been a lifelong and passionate observer of the profound impact that local and provincial politics can have on our daily lives, and of how ordinary little people can make a difference. As I later came to learn this week, my mother asked about JMM's T-shirt so that she could acquire one for her grandson, my son, Theo, as a high school graduation gift. He, too, shares JMM's love of all things nerdy, and she has no doubt now recruited him as our family's next generation fan of the show. See photo of my mother and Theo in his new shirt.
Oh, that's amazing.
Look at that. Isn't that adorable? My mother is also one of the most kind-hearted and intelligent people I know. She retired as a Scarborough General Hospital burn unit and wound care nurse in 1988. But continued working tirelessly, serving local Malvern dermatology patients and volunteering with community agencies well into her mid-80s. She is still a force to be reckoned with, and this year she turns 90 years young on July 17th. My mother doesn't know that I'm writing to you, and it may be a tall ask, but as your biggest fan, JMM, I know that she would be just thrilled to receive an on-air shout-out for her birthday, perhaps on your all-mailbag final episode this week. Nadia Thomas. There you go. Isn't that fabulous?
This is
beautiful.
This has been wonderful. Moving to TV has been a big change for me. Of the two of us, I have substantially less broadcast experience. So this is wonderful. This might be just the best thing that has happened all year. Marjorie, Nadia, thank you so much. A very very happy early birthday to Marjorie. And to Theo, congratulations on graduating high school. That is a big deal, and you should be proud. If you managed to do it in less than 7 years, you're doing better than I did. Hug your grandmother. She loves you very much.
That's great. And if I can come full circle here for a second, her birthday is July 17th. That is Bob Nixon's birthday. Let's go back to the top of the show there. Yeah, nice coincidence. Now, what is the story about 7 years to finish high school here?
You know what? We're going to save that. I'm going to save the salacious details of my life for the next season of the TV show, and we'll give people a reason to tune back in the fall.
Now, I think I might have said 1988 on the when she was a wound care nurse, but it's 1998, right? Have I got that right now?
Yes, 1998.
1998. Let's make sure we get the date right there. Oh, and as long as I'm correcting, I think I said Charles Sousa last week was Etobicoke Lakeshore, and it's not. It's Mississauga Lakeshore. So we're going to get all these corrections out of the way right away.
All these corrections.
Phew. Okay, that was a marathon mailbag, and I think we've got to the end of it.
I think we have. So yes, thank you to everyone who sent in a question. If we didn't get to your question on the show, we did still enter your name into the draw.
And Matthew O'Meara made this highly technical, very impressive. What do we think this is?
I'm not sure if it was a Timbits box or a Tim Hortons coffee or something.
It's
but
something.
Yes.
We're going to pluck 3 names out of this box now, and people are going to have a chance to win this book. This is Richard Petty's latest, Great Small Towns of Ontario. And JMM, do you want to do the first honors here?
Our first winner is Alexander DeMello,
who sent us a question earlier. Okay, I'm going to do the second one here. And the winner of a second Richard Petty book is Mark Fairclough, Fairclough. Okay, that's the second one. Let's do one more.
One more. Karen Pingree is our third book recipient.
Excellent. So we will get books sent out to the 3 of you folks, and we thank everybody for their letters and emails to our program. It's a beautiful thing. And that is the On Poly podcast for this June 28th, 2024.
You can follow our show on Apple Podcasts so you get notified each time a new episode is available. And you can see the video version of the podcast on the TVO Today YouTube channel.
Any feedback you have, we're happy to hear it, good, bad, or indifferent. Write us an email at onpolitics@tvo.org, and we always ask you to include your first and last name and where you're writing from.
This week's episode was produced and edited by Matthew O'Meara, video editing by Colin Kish.
Production support from Jonathan Hallowell, Christine Gardner, Carla Lucetta, and TVO's Digital Media Services team.
Our managing editor is Katie O'Connor. Laurie Few is the executive producer of Digital. Stacey Dunseith is the executive producer of The Agenda. John Ferry is vice president of programming and content.
Special thanks, as always, to our wonderful crew for making the podcast look so darn good. And as I have been, is it a tradition if you've only done it a few times? Why not? As we do every week, we want to give a special shout out to someone on our crew here. And today, follow me.
Okay.
Today, we are going to do a special shout out, JMM, because as you know, there is somebody who is leaving us and who has decided to retire. I don't know why she would make such a terrible decision, because I don't know how we're going to do this program without her. Hello, Ms. Barton.
Hello.
Now, would you stand for your interview here? This is Lorraine Barton, who, okay, there's your camera over here.
Hello.
Lorraine is retiring after how many years here at TVO?
11.
And can you tell us why you're making this inexplicably bad decision for us?
Well, the truth of it is I travel about 4.5 hours every day to get here and back, and I'm sick of it. All right?
You live in Mississauga.
I do.
And it's a bus and a subway to get here, right?
2 buses in the subway, yeah.
2 buses and a subway.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a bit much.
Yeah.
Do you see all these people who are here? Now,
oh, my God. I'm glad I put my shoes on now.
Lorraine is the assistant director of this program, and we don't get on or off on time if not for Lorraine, right?
A number of times I've forgotten my pass alone, and she's had to get me in here. Yes.
Now, Lorraine, what do I give you every Monday morning when I come in?
You give me the New York Review because it has the crossword at the back of it.
Okay, so I happen to hold this mic for a second.
Thank you.
All right, and point it in my face. I happen to have here, okay, here's this week's New York Times Magazine.
Right.
And, you know, as per my usual habit, I'm bringing it in, but this time, some of the folks here have put a special crossword in the back.
Oh, my
instead. And this one's called, can we see this, David? This one's called All About Lolo. And Lolo's your nickname, of course. They made this crossword puzzle with all these clues.
Wendy's favorite cheese.
This is all about you.
Feeds the soul.
So this is, you know, when I say it's got your name on it?
Yeah.
It really does.
Oh, yeah. Skinny legs in Corey. Birthday twin and favorite crossword. This is fantastic. Thank you. Thank you.
Lorraine, can I say, on behalf of everybody here, we're really going to miss you to bits. We love you. We love your wonderful accent. We love what you've brought to our program.
Yeah.
We love that you are such a happy person here and a joy to work with. We wish you well with whatever comes next. And we have, I think, a few more seconds to try to convince you not to do this.
All right, I won't.
It's a deal. It's a deal.
Offboarding seems to be arduous.
Now, I don't know how we're going to sign off this show if I'm talking to you. Do you want to sit back down and get us out of here?
Absolutely.
Okay. Oh, incidentally, that's Sheldon. You know how I talk to Sheldon all the time? That's Sheldon. Okay, and with that, we're out of here. Until next season, everybody, thanks so much.
See you in September.
If you're driving around Ontario, maybe on the 401, or taking the subway in Toronto, there's a guy you need to know about. They called him Old Man Ontario, the Silver Fox, and in 1949, he took over running the province of Ontario. This is the story of Leslie Frost. Leslie Frost becomes the Premier of Ontario in 1949, and he lasts until 1961. He wins 3 consecutive majority governments in that time. He's the last guy to do that. Nobody has won 3 consecutive majority governments since Frost did it in 51, 55, and 59. One of the things to remember is that a lot of present-day Ontario has its roots in decisions made by Leslie Frost and his government. The 401 and a lot of other 400 series highways. The provincial sales tax came in at 3%. They called it the frostbite. The subway for the Toronto Transit Commission. And of course, for those who live in the capital city, the Metro Toronto form of government with its 6 incumbent cities. Scarborough, North York, Toronto, East York, York, and Etobicoke. That form of government was brought in during the Leslie Frost years. And to think of it, it all started with a coin flip. I'm not talking about the beginning of a football game coin flip. No, different. This was a coin flip between Leslie Frost and his brother Cecil. They decided one of them would get into public life and the other would help. So they flipped a coin to decide who would run, and Leslie Frost won the coin flip. So he contested the 1934 election, and believe it or not, he lost. But he ran again in 1937 and he won that election, and he never lost another. There's a way that premiers stay in touch with their base, how they don't get swallowed up in the Queen's Park bubble, how they make sure that they're still in regular touch with everyday people so they can stay grounded. Doug Ford has Ford Fest, where he invites 2,000 of his closest friends to a big barbecue. Bill Davis used to go to Strawberry Socials on Sunday afternoons in Brampton so he could stay in touch with real folks. What did Leslie Frost do? He visited the barber. The barber in Lindsay, Ontario had Frost's undivided attention. And when Leslie Frost wanted to know what average people thought about some of his government policies, he would talk to the barber. And there were times, I have heard stories, when Frost would talk to his barber would react very negatively to some kind of policy the Frost government was bringing in, and Frost, as a result of those conversations, would change his mind and retreat on a particular policy. Was the barber the decision maker? No. Did he have schlep? Yes. Did the barber have too much power? I don't know if you could say he had too much power, but he certainly was in a position to give advice. After all, he was holding the scissors to the Silver Fox's hair. The year is 1959. There's a young 29-year-old kid in Peel County who wants to run for the Progressive Conservatives in that election. His name is Bill Davis. Big problem. There's a big company in Peel County that's about to lay off 10,000 employees right before the Ontario election. What am I talking about? The Avro Arrow, this fantastic state-of-the-art fighter jet, which the federal government had been funding, but for which there was no customer. The jet was almost obsolete as it became ready to go to market. And so the Diefenbaker government, John Diefenbaker was the prime minister of the day, the Diefenbaker government in early 1959 canceled the Avro Arrow. Well, try being a progressive conservative in 1959, a few months later, and trying to find votes in Peel County where 10,000 people have just lost their jobs. Bill Davis went down to Queen's Park. He had a meeting in the Premier's office with Leslie Frost. He said, "Look what John Diefenbaker has done to me. Is there any point in my running? I'm going to get killed now, aren't I?" Leslie Frost picked up the phone right while Bill Davis was there. He called the Prime Minister. He got Diefenbaker on the line. And according to Mr. Davis's recounting of the incident, absolutely swore a blue streak at the Prime Minister for dumping this stink bomb on the Ontario Tories just before a provincial election. Well, you can imagine that campaign didn't go so well for Bill Davis. It was tight. But Bill Davis won in 1959. In fact, there's a classic picture taken during that 1959 election campaign of the outgoing member for Peel, Tom Kennedy, the incoming member for Peel, Bill Davis, and the Premier of the day, Leslie Frost. And the caption on the picture is, "Past, present, and future." Even then, people were talking about Bill Davis as a future Premier. But I digress. I know on May the 4th, we always think about Star Wars because this has become a thing, right? May the 4th be with you. I am a deeply Ontario politics nerd. And therefore, on May the 4th, I not only think about Star Wars, but I think about Leslie Frost as well. Because in 1973, on Star Wars Day, May the 4th, Leslie Frost died at the age of 77. So on the next Star Wars Day, don't just think about Obi-Wan Kenobi and Luke Skywalker. Pause 30 seconds for the Laird of Lindsay, Old Man Ontario, the Silver Fox, Leslie Frost as well.
Growing up here felt a little bit like living in a Gothic novel, I do have to admit. It was like a Bronte sister or something, having a forest to explore and green grass and water and trees. And then there's this beautiful creek, and this creek was called Spring Creek, and it in the 1800s was considered to bring long life to someone if they drank from it. And so a little hotel propped up in the town as it was being formed, and people would come from all over Ontario to drink from Spring Creek. Horror movies are something that I love. I'm a big fan of it. I enjoy participating in movies and horror novels and things that are a little bit spooky and scary. And so I wanted to take a look at moments in my life where I connected with a trope that is common in scary movies or scary literature. So those moments where my story might illuminate a universal issue rather than the other way around. And on this warm spring night, we have the moon roof open and the windows down, and we are all chair dancing and singing to George Michael's Freedom 90. The George Michael Freedom 90 video said something to me about how even in secret places, like your own bathroom, your own bed sheets, the places you're half naked and vulnerable, you are always first and foremost queer. And that means you're never alone because, like the Borg in TNG, we're a collective consciousness. We can recognize each other through our gaydar. Now, of course, hiding and being invisible are two different things. Hiding is fear-based, but invisibility can be a superpower. At least that's what I was contemplating at the time, because I was scared to make my queerness visible to my friends and the world, afraid I would scare them. My bi-ness was not supermodel beautiful to me yet. I was afraid they wouldn't understand. I wasn't interested in Linda Evangelista. I was already swooning over pictures of a shaven-headed Ripley in David Fincher's next project that was coming out a month later in 1992, Alien 3. And it was a love that was growing desperate to burst out of my chest. Being a queer woman and feeling that strong affinity for horror films or thrillers or scary bits and pieces of culture that come up, the reason why it felt so prevalent for me in this time period, the 80s and 90s, was, we were really taught to be very hypervigilant around anyone who seemed to be hiding part of their nature out in public, like the Ted Bundys of the world, who were so wonderful up front and then were hiding something. And in the case of gays and lesbians, people were hiding something, but it wasn't something frightening. It was something beautiful. It was love that we were hiding, and yet people turned it to become something more villainous. And that's why they used queer characters quite often. If you look at the queer coding, it's quite often the characters who are the villains are queer coded in life. And so that's a strong connection that happens often. In the calls coming from inside the house, the essays are all outlined underneath common tropes in film and literature. And so I take that trope, so for instance, the babysitter, and I look at a moment in my life when I was the babysitter and all of the kind of nerves that came with it and all of the moments that were a little bit spooky or strange that came with it, the stress that came with being responsible for children. And then I look at some of the theory behind it and I compare it to films that are within that genre and try and connect it to illuminate a stronger universal truth. Great. At 18, all I want to do is drive. I'm in mad, passionate love with the freedom that it presents, and my mother lends me the car because she never seems to want me to take the bus. She doesn't say anything to me outright about the risks and dangers of the world. I think she knows that if she said something to me that I'd just roll my eyes at her so hard that I'd do a cartwheel. I think our being attacked or something, it seems about as likely to happen to us as a man with a hook for a hand climbing through my bathroom mirror. But for a long time now in the news, girls like as young as 15 have been followed home by a man from bus stops near Scarborough. I think that Gen X, absolutely, growing up in this time period, definitely, that is where my worldview comes from. And for this particular book, it fit in perfectly with the film and television and exploring things through that trope because we were the TV generation, right? We were typically the latchkey kids who were growing up on MTV and coming home from school and watching Young and the Restless and, a lot of us were. And, so that is part of it. Media and connecting with media was a big part of our education, I think, especially for me during the teenage years and formative years. So, I'm curious about how that impacted me and my thoughts and what lessons I learned from it. So Gen Xers now at the certain age that we're at, I'm looking back at the first half of my life and kind of assessing the collateral damage. Although as a mother and cis femme queer woman, I've struggled with centering my stories and experiences, separating the expectations of my role from the individual being, and as they say in the film Orlando, not drowning anonymously in the milk of female kindness. We must stay sweet, calm, and sheltered. The stereotype of a screaming teenage girl exists because teenage girls have valid reasons to scream. And teenage girls need plenty of healthy opportunities to scream together in fun. So when we need to scream in outrage or fear, our voices are prepared. I'm a mother raising two daughters, one who's just about to become a teenager and one who's right in the thick of it. And they are both absolutely informed and intelligent and capable girls. But I worry that what maybe I've done is swing the pendulum too far and, by frightening them a little bit. I think they definitely don't fall into some of the same things that I do, but every generation has their issues and concerns. And, you know, I worry that maybe where I was naive, maybe they are too well informed, and it could be frightening or negative to have too much information. Just like I feel like growing up in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, I didn't have enough at all. My fertility journey was, you know, it was almost Tolkien. It was so epic. It was very long. It took a lot in order to bring our 2 children into the world. So there were multiple miscarriages, lots of different doctors involved. I had several surgeries, even when I was pregnant at one point in time. And then in between to make sure that the next pregnancy would stay. And it was, yeah, a lot of bed rest. So there's something kind of gothic around being on bed rest. But I think it's really important to share your fertility journey because so many people are going through it. And because we don't and didn't talk about it, I know for myself, it felt very isolating. I imagine for my partner at the time, it also felt very isolating not being able to have a voice as the partner. Everything is, you know, it's all about the mother the gestational mother who's going through it and not so much for the partner. So there's a little bit about that I think needs to be spoken about. And then, you know, there are parts of me where I kind of question how deep we went into that, how much it cost us, how much was required, and how much were we sort of led down a path to try and do this in a particular way, what was necessary, what wasn't. You know, the costs were extraordinary to our, you know, bank account, but also the relationship, my career, taking time off for all of that, you know, your sanity and sense of self. It was all encompassing for a very long time. And so, you know, I want people to know that they're not alone in that. And I think also giving a voice to queer women and how we go about creating our families as well is unique and specific to our journey. At first, we had thought to ourselves, you know, how are we going to do this to women? How is that going to happen? And then there were so many options and opportunities, which you don't really think about, to create this family. And so finding the right path for us, you know, was a bit of a challenge. But ultimately, I would do it again every single day for the rest of my life to have the kids that I have because they're phenomenal. This essay is really the impetus for the calls coming from inside the house. And it's from the New York Times Sunday Style section, November 1st, 2020. And it is an essay about living in a potentially haunted house at the end of my marriage. So living with ghosts post-divorce. Who is the Harbinger? So the Harbinger is one of the tropes that I explore in the book. And the Harbinger is the character at the beginning of a horror movie who fuels up the plot line by stepping in and saying, don't go into the woods or stay away from Camp Blood in Friday the 13th. The Harbinger is the person who knows the landscape and warns the protagonist to be careful of what's about to come. And in the book, I personify that character as my anxiety. So for me, I live with generalized anxiety disorder that developed significantly when I was going through the fertility process, trying to have children. And so this character of the Harbinger hung around for some time until I decided to deal with it and go on to medication, which has now really supported me and helped me with some of the physical sensations of anxiety, so I don't feel like I'm tense at all times, but the intrusive thoughts still come in. And it's something that I think people are becoming more comfortable talking about, intrusive thoughts and fears and worries that are cycling through at all times. So for me, anxiety and the Harbinger really showed his face after I had the children. And became a single mother when our family structure changed. And so at the times I was parenting, I was a single mother. So yeah, he would be very vocal about letting me know that, you know, the worst things in the world could happen at any moment. My ex-wife and I used to call it death at every corner. So I could walk into a room and just let you know immediately where all of the dangers are. Some traumas are so big that they won't fit up on a shelf or in our curio cabinets. Some are so big we have to carry them with us 24/7, which can be awfully heavy. So we turn them into stories that are easier to share with others and take some of the load off of ourselves for a while. We make them entertaining so they're less likely to traumatize someone else. So that segment is in a story called The Storytellers, and it's The Storyteller, or My Dad's First Murder. My father was not a murderer. He's a journalist in the 1950s in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and so he is a very dynamic man, and he's wonderful with words, and he certainly is where I got my love of writing from. Growing up with a father who was a journalist and writer and a mother who was a teacher, literacy was very important to them. And so we had the great fortune of having access to books and the classics. So instead of bedtime stories, my father would read to us from An Invitation to Poetry and read stories and poems like The Cremation of Sam McGee, which is one of my absolute favorites. So a little bit spooky and maybe not the most appropriate for bedtime, but it was always fun and got me interested in stories that were maybe a little bit on the darker side. The story of his first murder is he was a journalist. He was doing the crime beat, and he was listening to the police scanner on the radio, and they said, there's a body on Vernon Street, there's a body on Vernon Street. And they were calling for another police officer, and my dad realized, oh my God, I'm on Vernon Street. He was only 17 years old. He'd never seen a dead body before. He had never been a part of anything like this, and so he pulled up and stood over this body in the middle of the street and felt utterly terrified and got back into the car and drove off, and then came back once the police had arrived. I mean, that's the kind of the gist of the story. Stories are so big and complex and tell so much about who the storyteller is as a human being. And, you know, when it comes to telling a great story, you need a little bit of both facts and fiction and fun, and a little bit of elaboration and a little bit of fabulousness in it, I think, to make the story really, really perfect. We lost my mom. She passed away in April of last year, on my birthday actually, which sounds really sad, but there was something quite beautiful about that too. Something about, you know, being there for each other in the moment of birth and death, and it was quite beautiful actually. My mother had an illness called multiple systems atrophy, and it's a rare neurodegenerative disease, and like I could compare it to ALS, I suppose, where just she slowed down quite gently over a period of years, but eventually she was unable to really speak. She had to be fed. My mom was once a dancer. I say she remembered the dance, but she couldn't get her feet to move, and she you know, knew all the words to the songs, but she just couldn't quite sing them the way she could before. So she was a beautiful woman, a very gentle and peaceful spirit in my life. I say in the book that my mom did disappear from my life sort of task by task, and that maybe that's the responsibility of all moms, is to disappear from our children's life slowly, and as they take on each task in their life, to let them step forward into the spotlight and move back step by step. Smart stories for queer girls. I wasn't really writing it specifically for queer women, although I'm sure it will resonate for women who, are queer, bi, lesbian, trans, wherever you are in the beautiful rainbow spectrum. There's definitely stories in there for women. I've been really surprised and interested to see that men are really enjoying this book. I've had several reviews from men who have really kind of connected with it, and that was surprising to me. I thought for sure this would be strictly for women, but I was on a terrific podcast called Spooked, and they had read it and he loved it. I was like, that's interesting, okay. And then another reviewer who was male also. So it's not just specifically for queer women, and it's not specifically for women. It's not specifically for Gen X. When I was writing it, I did not have an ideal audience in mind. I try to put that out of my mind actually entirely. I try to put the business of writing a book out of my mind when I'm writing the book, so that it can be as authentic to the story that I want to tell as possible.
And that is a wrap for season 18 of The Agenda here on TVO. We want to thank you for tuning in and watching us online. Remember, you can always catch all of our episodes on our website. That's tvo.org/theagenda. I'm Steve Paikin. We'll see you again in the fall for season 19 of The Agenda. So long, everyone.